भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीवैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं प्रजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंच कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी नामने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामने। नमस्ते सारस्वती गौरवाणी चारिणे निर्विशेष मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्र पातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। Welcome back. Hope you all had a wonderful Rath Yatra celebrations wherever you have been. So it has been very nice. Jagannath ji is one of our sampradayas, worshipable deities. While in our Gaudiya Parampara we focus on Radha and Krishna as the ultimate object of our worship, we have two more deities which are especially worshipped on an equal footing. One is Jagannath ji, because Jagannath ji is non-different from Krishna. He is Krishna who is in separation from the residents of Vrindavan. And we are the, we meaning, not we, but we meaning our parampara, our line. We are the connoisseurs of the Vipralamba Bhav. Because in another form, Krishna came to teach us to relish Krishna's transcendental qualities in the mood of separation. And that is Lord Chaitanya. So Krishna, Jagannath, and Gauranga. These three are our worshipable deities. Jai Gaura, Sai Krishna, Sai Jagannath. Vasudeva Ghosh sings. He who is Gaura is he who is Krishna, is he who is Jagannath. So actually, we are not worshipping different personalities. We are worshipping the same personality in different moods, because those specific moods are the treasure which our parampara is offering to us. Because they represent the highest moods attainable for any living entity, for any soul, even within the realm of bhakti. Even within the realm of pure devotion, there are so many levels. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita explains. And out of those, topmost is the worship of Radha Krishna. But within the worship of Radha Krishna, the highest is the conjugal mood of serving Radha and Krishna. And within the conjugal mood, the highest is the Parakiya Ras. And within the Parakiya Ras, the highest experience is that of Radharani. But because we cannot become Radharani, but we can taste the mood of Radharani by being her handmaidens, the Manjaris, the Sakhis, the servants of Radharani. And the spiritual world, the highest ecstasies are tasted both in Sambhoga and Vipralamba, in union with Krishna and also in intense separation from Krishna. Of course, for us who are already away from Krishna, we are unable to taste union with Krishna because we have not had a union with Krishna. We don't have access to that realm yet. But at least what we can do, because we are already in a state of separation, forced separation, not a transcendental separation, but a separation of rebellion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us how we can cultivate devotion in that mood. And he exemplified that mood to teach us. And that is one of the reasons why he went to Jagannath Puri. Because in Jagannath Puri, the mood of separation is most wonderfully exemplified, because the deity there, the predominating deity Jagannath himself, is in separation. He is in separation from his devotees are in separation from him, so that is the right place to taste. The right thing has to be tasted in the right place, right? Correct? If you want to eat Chinese cuisine, I'm talking about Indo-Chinese, don't go to a Udupi restaurant and order manchow soup from there. Because they will not know how to create the right taste. Of course, there may be exceptions. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. You don't go to a North Indian dhaba and try to get the best idli and the best, paper dosa. So certain environments, certain places are best for relishing certain tastes. And Jagannath Puri is especially suited. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very beautifully planned his pastimes in such a way that rather than going to Vrindavan, he came to Jagannath Puri. And Jagannath Puri is a dham which is much more accessible to the conditioned souls in Kali Yuga. Because Jagannath is so one-hearted. Krishna is usually, he is of course very merciful, but still he is a bit considerate of qualification. But the same Krishna in the form of Jagannath, because he's so intoxicated in separation of his devotees, sometimes when a person is in a very different mood, his normal swabhav is kept in the background and he becomes sometimes more liberal. So Jagannath is very liberal. How liberal? He's with big eyes just waiting to see his devotees. Big eyes. He's so eager to see his devotees that once a year he comes out on his ratha and is watching everybody, enjoying seeing his devotees. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patakami Bhavatu. So we want Jagannath to come in the sight of our vision, and Jagannath wants his devotees to come in the sight of the line of his vision. Of course, we want to be in the sight of the Lord's vision. That is more important than us seeing the Lord. But that's how Jagannath is showering his affection. Big, round eyes. Chakadola. Chakadola. Chakadola means eyes are like big chak, big wheels. And Mahaprabhu comes there, and there are so many beautiful transcendent pastimes which we are already discussing in our Chaitanya Pravaha. Krishna, in the mood of Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna, has come to Jagannath Puri, where Krishna is feeling separation from Radharani because he has gone away from Raj. So perfect place for meeting, right, for these two emotions. Anyway, so these are very high esoteric things. But why I'm mentioning all these things is that This is the pinnacle. There's nothing higher than this. In terms of the possibilities of spiritual attainment, there's nothing beyond this. You cannot become Krishna. You cannot become Radharani. At most, you can try to be the innermost circle of their most intimate and ecstatic Leela. That's the maximum attainment possible, which you can attain only if you become a close, intimate servant of those who are in the innermost Leela, so that you can assist them. And that access Lord Chaitanya is giving. That access our parampara, the disciplic succession from Rupa Goswami, the Manjaris, that is the access we are getting. Right now, we have the opportunity. Whether we capitalize the opportunity or not depends on us. But that's the door which opens once in a day of Brahma for 10,000 years. 10,000 out of 8.64 billion. So you can calculate the percentage. Because 4.32 billion is day, 4.32 billion is night. Out of which only 10,000 years is when Lord Chaitanya's mercy is accessible. And we are just 500 years into the 10,000 years. Another 9,500. So hopefully we can wrap up and attain the goal. Hopefully in this life, but if not, at least not too long. And the warning is, don't get attracted to the descriptions of the heavenly planets and end up there, because if you end up there, and we'll be discussing the topic today because it's a part of our discussion in chapter 17 of the 5th canto, which we are going to discuss today. Praptva punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha. Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Prashta Vijay. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that those who even fail in yoga, not pass, fail candidates, tried but failed. Those who fail in yoga, what they get? They get consolation prize. What is the consolation prize? Go to heaven and stay there for a long time and enjoy. That's consolation. Because why? Because they failed because they were attracted to matter. So Krishna says, okay, you're getting too distracted, no? You can't focus. Okay, go spend some time there, realize the futility of material enjoyment. And those who are yogis who go there, then they realize, oh, what the... I was after this. Even though it is so beautiful, it's so wonderful, it's not satisfying the heart. It was so much better sitting down in the association of great souls and hearing Bhagavatam. It was so nice dancing in Kirtan. It was so nice obtaining Krishna's Mahaprasad and being in the association. Oh, bad choice, bad choice. And then they will repent and then they will take birth again in a auspicious family where they can continue their spiritual life. But the thing is, having stayed there for a long time, so what happens? Thousands of years may pass. So I'm giving you this warning, as I've heard from my seniors. I'm passing the warning to you. Of course, this warning is also to myself, because this is very easily attainable for those who are devotees. So all those who are in this class, I can tell you, for you to attain heavenly planets is, you don't even have to think about it. You'll attain it very easily. Of course, assuming none of you are doing any gross sins, which I earnestly believe none of you are doing. But let that not be your goal, because that's an easy goal to attain. And if that is our goal, very easily we'll go there and we'll miss the bus. Correct? Sometimes a person becomes so busy in the airport, going around doing duty-free shopping, that he misses his flight. He enjoys the airport so much, he forgets he has to catch a flight. So let us not miss the bus of Lord Chaitanya, which is giving us this most rarest of opportunities. So we are so fortunate. And that is why in our most ISKCON temples, you'll see these three deities predominantly. Radha Krishna, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, Gaur Nitai. Very few temples, Shri Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman are there. Of course, they are also supremely worshipable and the supreme personality of Godhead. But they are not the primary focus of our parampara. But of course, they are, as Maryada Purushottam is worshipped all over the world, and some temples they have been established because so many devotees in India want to see the Lord in that form. So to facilitate their devotion, they have been installed in many temples, but primarily these three deities which I mentioned. So this is a side point. It's not related to today's topic, but since we are speaking about Jagannath, I thought I wanted to just emphasize this. So coming to today's topic. So we are discussing Bhagavad Cosmology. And today we'll be discussing chapter 17. Krishna willing, I hope to complete the chapter. It's not a very long chapter. The chapter is entitled The Descent of River Ganges. How Ganga Devi descended. Only 24 verses. So far, in the two classes of cosmology or three classes of cosmology that we have discussed, broadly, we started with a synopsis, how there is a Brahma-anda, and within the Brahmanda, which is covered with multiple layers of multiple elements, 7 layers of 7 elements, increasing thickness, 10x, 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 thickness of the coverings, from the gross to the most subtlest element, ending with the Pradhan. And inside the vacuum of this Brahma Anda, the egg of Brahma, the Lord enters as Garbhodakshay. Vishnu fills half the universe with a perspiration coming out from his body. Garbha Udaka, he lies inside it. And then the universe is manifested. The universal creation is compared to a lotus emanating from the navel, which represents the creative potency of the Supreme Personality of God. The lotus flower itself, which is coming up from the stem, the 14 planetary systems are supposed to be in that stem. There is a flower at the top, there is a stem, and in the middle there is a circular lotus leaf. If you have seen a lotus leaf, it is quite circular. The lotus leaf, circular lotus leaf, is compared to the Bhumandal. And the actual lotus flower is compared to the topmost of the planets, especially Brahmaloka. And all the other planetary systems are considered to be situated within the stem. So that is the kind of comparison given. And we were discussing about the Bhumandal, which is that huge circular disk. See if I can start my sharing. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes,
yeah, I hope it's visible.
Yeah.
So there is the shells of the universe. This is a simplified diagram. And within the ocean, the Garbhodaka ocean, at the bottom, actually, Lord Garbhodakshay Vishnu is lying, but he is not shown here. Of course, his body is transcendental. He is very huge. And then there is the Kurma Dev, who's floating in the ocean, on whose back is Shesha. And then there are the Diggajas who are supporting this circular disk, which is the Mandal. And then there are other planets going up. It's not all showed in this particular image, but I can show you in another image. Oh, I don't think you can see this one, right? Okay. So this is giving a view where you can see this is the Bhumandal. These are the two Lokalok mountains, and there are the various. This is the central pivot, which is the Meru, the inverted cone, the golden mountain at the center of the universe. The Bhumandal, even though it is compared with a disk, actually it is not absolutely flat. It is slightly terraced, and that's why you can see this kind of an incline with the Meru in the center. And then there are the planets. There is the sun revolving like this. There is the moon, the nakshatras, the navagrahas, then the Sapta Rishis, Dhruva Lok, then higher than Dhruva Lok are the Maharjanar Tapar Satya. So this is broadly the structure of the universe. So we discussed this. After we discussed this, we went into the discussion of how the Bhumandal disk is divided into 7 dvipas. Priyavrat Maharaj with his chariot created 7 oceans which were filled with different kinds of liquids: salt water, oil, milk, yogurt, liquor, fresh water, and I think sugarcane water, if I'm not wrong. Different kinds of liquids, and different dvipas were created. Priyavrat Maharaj gave his different sons in charge of these 7 dvipas. The central dvipa is known as Jambu Dvipa. Who was the ruler of Jambu Dvipa? Anybody remembers? Anybody remembers? Who's the ruler of Jambu Dvipa?
Maharaj Agnidra. Was it Maharaj Agnidra, Prabhuji? Was it Maharaj Agnidra, Prabhuji?
Agnidra Maharaj. So Agnidra Maharaj was ruling the Jambu Dvipa, the central part, which is circular. And we also discussed and saw roughly how the Jambu Dvipa looks. And we discussed this is the circular Jambu Dvip with the Mount Meru. This is the top view. And there's the salt water ocean surrounding the Jambu Dvipa. Of course, beyond the salt water ocean, there is another concentric Dvipa, then another concentric Dvipa, and there are oceans like that. Yeah, I hope you can visualize. We have covered that in the previous class. I'm not going to go into all those images, otherwise we'll get distracted. I'm doing a bit more context setting because we had a break. So I want to make sure we haven't lost track of what we were discussing. So we discussed how Maharaj Agnidra, whom did Agnidra marry?
Purvachiti.
Find out and tell me. And he had 9 children. Nabhi, Kimpurusha, Hari, Bhadrashwa, Ketumal, Ilavarta, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Kuru. Very simple. You just have to look at the names of the different Varshas because these are the 9 kingdoms which he gave to 9. The only difference is that Bharat Varsha, Bharat is not his son. Actually, this Varsha was known originally as Ajanabha Varsha because it was ruled by Nabhi. Nabhi was also known as Ajanab, but eventually, because Ajanab, the line of Nabhi, then Rishabdev comes and then Bharat Maharaj comes, later it became known as Bharat Varsha. So we discussed this broad structure, how various mountains here are dividing the Jambudvip into 9 Varshas. If you remember, what is a Dvipa? A Dvipa is a piece of land which is surrounded at least on 2 sides by water. And Varsha is typically a valley between mountains. So here you can see more or less that is the case. Of course, in this case, Uru Varsha is mountain on one side and ocean on the other. So in that sense, it is a valley. Most of the others are between mountains. Yeah. Of course, Ilavarta Varsha being very special because on all 4 sides there are mountains and there are so many mountains. full of mountains. Mount Sumeru in the center, a golden effulgent mountain. And then there are so many Kesharachala 20 hills. And there is the Kailash and so many other mountains. We discussed all this in great detail in our last class. So having discussed the geography of Ilavarta Varsha, we discussed how Ilavarta Varsha is so wonderful. Very beautiful, full of lakes, gardens. There's the Jambu Nadi. There are huge tall trees. There's a rose apple tree. There's a banyan tree. There's a huge mango tree. So many kinds of wonderful trees, lakes, rivers, heavenly denizens. Wow, so far out. And there is also a Kailash mountain. So good, I remembered. So there were two questions which Amit Prabhu had asked in the last time, which I said I will clarify. I think I haven't. So I checked that with Pavaneshwar Prabhu because he's the source, he's the author of all these books. So he confirmed that yes, the Mount Kailash, which is shown within here, it's not in this diagram, it was in the detailed diagram that we saw the last time. Lord Shiva is residing there on Mount Kailash. Here, Lord Shiva is also residing, like what I said, in another Rudra form, which is the Shankara form, on Mount Himalaya, because there's another Kailash here. So there are many Rudras in many places. And there are many Vishnus also in many places. We'll discuss that later in the chapter also. So it's quite interesting. So sometimes when these varied descriptions are given, people think, oh, this is so much discrepancy in the Vedic scriptures. It's not like that. It's not a discrepancy. The problem is we are not understanding that there are various expansions of Shiva, there are various expansions of the Supreme Lord, and they are manifested in various places. So yes, the Mount Kailash here, the Lord Shiva and Bhavani, with how many servants? With 10 billion servants. They are staying here in Ilavarta Varsha. And the speciality of Ilavarta Varsha it's a part of this chapter. Maybe I should discuss it when we go there only. We will discuss it a little later. So there is a fair bit of discussion on this. So this particular chapter that we are discussing today is about a particular aspect of Ilavarta Varsha. And you may be wondering why this chapter is entitled Descent of Ganges. It is because Ganges descends first on Bhumandal by touching down on Mount Sumeru, which is at the center of Ilavarta Varsha. And that is why this topic has come into discussion in this context. Otherwise, some of you may be wondering, oh, we were discussing wonderful cosmology now, where suddenly descent of Ganges comes. So we are not going into the details of the Bhagirath story that is covered elsewhere in the Bhagavad itself later, and we will discuss that Sagar and his sons and 60,000 sons, and then how Bhagirath brings down Ganga. But this being a geographical description, our focus is on the geography of Ganga, not on the details of the Puranic episodes around the appearance of Ganga. So today's topic is focused on that, and we'll be discussing more about that. So this chapter broadly has 3 sections. It's only 24 shlokas. And it has 3 sections. By the way, sorry, before I forget, there was another question which Amit Prabhu had asked last time, which was about the daughters of Meru married the 9 sons of Agnidra. Correct? So the question was, is this Meru same as Mount Sumeru? So I wasn't very sure at that time. So I checked, and the answer I got is yes. So it is the predominating deity of Mount Sumeru. So that is correct. Okay. So these 2 things which was as unclear. So that is always our process. Best not to speculate. If we don't know, we ask the right people who know, we come back and answer. So that is the clarification I want to give from the previous sessions. So coming back to the class for today, in the Descent of River Ganges chapter 17, Canto 5, There are broadly three topics. The first topic is, of course, the title. It is the geography of how Ganges came down. Just around 10 verses out of the 24. The other two topics that are discussed in this chapter is, one of them is, what are the 9 divisions of Jambudvipa? Now, of course, you can see that right on your screen. What are the 9 divisions? But there is a little bit more information which is given. It's not a lot, which we will discuss. In fact, the subsequent chapter, the next chapter, discusses in great detail who are the predominating deities and who are the predominating residents and what are their prayers. It's a detailed discussion of the deities and the residents of each of these varshas. But there is a brief mention in this chapter, a few verses. After that, the last portion, almost 10 plus verses, maybe 10, 12 verses, focuses on the discussion of Ilavarta Varsha again, and more specifically on Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva's worship of Lord Sankarshan within Ilavarta Varsha and his prayers to Lord Sankarshan in Ilavarta Varsha. Now, when we come to that topic, we will discuss what is the connection of Sankarshan with Ilavarta Varsha, why he's praying to Sankarshan, what are his prayers. That we will discuss because there is a very specific connection there. Maybe many of you may have heard that Lord Shiva is in meditation. The scripture says the Lord Shiva is meditating on Lord Sankarshan. Okay, why Sankarshan? We will come to that a little later. The simple answer is Lord Shiva is a derivative from Lord Sankarshan, an expansion. That's the simple answer. So he is his you can say something like a spiritual source. Because even though both are the Lord, Sankarshan being the transcendent Lord and Lord Shiva being a qualitative incarnation, but nonetheless, both of them are Ishwar Tattva. But Sankarshan represents the transcendental realm. He holds the potency of destruction. And that potency of destruction is empowered by Sankarshan to Lord Shiva. And that is why both Lord Shiva and Lord Sankarshan are known by the name of Tamasi. This is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavad. Tamasi means even though they are, because destruction is in the mode of ignorance, they are known as Tamasi, even though they are not in the mode of ignorance. They are both transcendental personalities. So these are the 3 broad topics, and this is a very interesting discussion. So we start with the first topic, which is the descent of Ganga. So Ganga Devi first manifested within the universe during the pastime of Lord Vamanadev. When Vamanadev had that beautiful pastime with Bali Maharaj, when he had his right foot on the ground and he raised his left foot up. He covered all the planetary systems. Then the toe of Vamanadev touched the covering of the universe. So we saw, right, how tall the covering is. So imagine what would have been the size of Vamana. He was standing on Bhumandal. I do not know where exactly he was standing. He was standing somewhere on that disc. And from that disc, he raised his foot. Correct? Somewhere on this disc. He raised his foot and he touched. And it created a crack in the coverings. And it is said the water of the causal ocean, not Garbhodak ocean. Garbhodak ocean is inside the universe. The Karanodak Sagar is outside the causal ocean. Water from the causal ocean trickled. Not a big leak, not water was spraying. Just a few drops from the crack. They came onto the lotus feet of the Lord, touched his toe, and the Lord's lotus feet are decorated with nice kumkum powder. It mixed with the kumkum powder, it became pinkish, beautiful pinkish, Charanamrit, and it fell into the universe. It is said first, Lord Shiva was so excited, he was the first person to receive those drops on his head. Lord Shiva ki jai. Everyone wants to have some contact with the lotus feet of the Lord. I want to show you this picture. So Ganga first came from the causal ocean. Lord Shiva is not mentioned here, but it is said first it was received by Lord Shiva on the head. It is said she remained there for 1000 millenniums, 1000 yugas. After which she manifested first in Dhruvalok. Why Dhruvalok? Dhruvalok is a kind of Vaikuntha planet, and Dhruva is such a great devotee. This Ganga is so pure, and because Dhruva is so pure, his mind is always focused, fully absorbed in the lotus feet of the Lord. His mind is fixed on Vishnu Pad, the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruva's mind. And Ganga Devi is known as Vishnu Padi, so she comes from the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhruva and others are so overwhelmed with devotion. Thinking of Ganges, that Ganges actually manifested there and flowed first on Dhruvaloka, where the residents were enjoying the blessing. I do not know who are the other residents. There must be perfected souls on Dhruvaloka, like Dhruva, but Dhruva is the principal resident there. Other than, of course, the Lord himself, because Dhruvalok is none other than Shweta Dvipa. It is the planet where Kshirodakashai Vishnu resides in the Kshira Sagar. So Ganges goes, that river, which is also known as Vishnu Padi, Bhagwat Padi, Jannavi and Bhagirathi. She first went to Dhruvaloka. After Dhruvaloka, it is said she descended from Dhruva. Just under the Dhruvaloka planet are the planet of the Sapta Rishis, the 7 sages. Vashishta, Atri and others, 7 sages, the 7 famous sages. These sages are also great devotees of the Lord. They were so eager to receive Ganges because they are fully aware of the potency of the lotus feet of the Lord. And not just the potency of the lotus feet of the Lord, whatever has had contact with the Lord's lotus feet. That's why in our tradition, we value Charanamrit. Why we value Charanamrit? The same water, which is water, when it touches and washes the Lord's deity, it becomes Charanamrit. Because when something contacts a transcendental substance, it absorbs and is imbued with the transcendental potency of the transcendental object. So the Charanamrit of the Lord. What to speak of the Lord? Even water which has washed the lotus feet of a great devotee is considered very, very powerful. Bhakta Pada Dhuliya, Bhakta Pada Jal, Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha 18 Mahabal. Chaitanya Charitamrita says 3 kind of substances are very, very powerful. What are they? Dust. Not any dust. Dust from the feet of a pure devotee. Water. Not any water. Water which has touched the feet of a pure devotee. And food. Not all food, but food which is remnants of the prasad eaten by a pure devotee. These 3, even a little contact with them has the power to infuse devotion in our heart and give us a spiritual advancement. So that's the sign of devotion. So that's why When the lamp is offered to the Lord, we also want to take blessings from the lamp. When a flower is offered to the Lord or the flower garland has decorated the Lord, we want to accept it, smell it, put the remnants on our body. So this is how we receive the grace of the Lord. So these are not sentimental things. We can actually get spiritual benefit. So the Saptarishis very well know the potency, a Prabhava Abhigya of Ganges, and understanding that this is such a great fortune. It is actually the perfection of their austerities that they have the opportunity to bathe in the Ganges water. They actually always put Ganges water in their matted locks. That is what the Bhagavatam says. Always carry it on their head. And they have obtained pure devotion. Because they have pure devotion, they are not interested in any other means of perfection other than Upekshita Anya Arthatmakataya. Saptarishis are also pure devotees. So it is said after purifying the Saptarishi planets, 7 planets of the 7 sages, Dhruvaloka, Saptarishi, the Ganges comes to the moon. Very interesting. How many of you knew that the Ganges flows in moon? So those who have telescopes, we want to quickly go and see where on the surface of the moon I can see Ganges. Sorry, you will not be able to see. It's present in a subtle form. So obviously you'll not be able to see. So moon is definitely not as desolate and dry as it appears to our eyes. Because we cannot see everything. In fact, at a subtle level, the Chandralok is said to be full of luscious vegetation and is especially famous for the Soma Rasa. And the demigods go there for the Somaras party. Now the interesting question is, how did the Ganges get from Saptarishi Lok to Chandraloka? The Bhagavatam gives a very interesting answer. It did not directly flow. It is said the heavenly residents, especially the residents, the heavenly residents in Chandralok were so eager to get the benefit of the Ganges that they made billions of flights in their airplanes to Saptarshi planet, filled tanks and tanks of Ganges water, flew back to moon, poured it, again went back. Billions of times they went and brought and made a Ganges river on moon. Correct? Just like nowadays, sometimes in the desert, Saudi, Dubai and all that, they do so many things to create, dig and create fresh water reservoirs and put water. So the residents of the moon planet, the moon Loka, sometimes people become disturbed. Oh, why you're calling moon planet? Why you're calling sun planet? Sun is a star. Don't you understand? Haven't you gone to school? So actually, sometimes use the word planet because in Sanskrit, the word graha is used. But the word planet in modern astronomy and the word graha in our traditional Vedic astronomy are actually 2 different concepts. So please don't be disturbed. Our idea of graha is not the same idea of planet in modern astronomy. A definition of a planet in modern astronomy is a body which revolves around a star and some other characteristics. But anyway, I don't want to make this an astronomy class. But the idea of graha, there are only Nava grahas in the universe. How many grahas? There are only Nava grahas. And they have been identified. And Surya and Chandra come in the Navagrahas. The Navagrahas are the 7 days Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, and then Rahu Ketu. 7 plus 2, 9. So the residents of the moon, and that's why sometimes in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada may say moon planet, sun planet. He's using the word planet in terms of loka. Loka means a place which is, a place of residence of a particular kind of beings. So there is Chandra Loka, Surya Loka. So the word planet is used in that sense, not in the astronomical sense. So the residents of the moon brought lots and lots of water in billions of celestial airplanes. And somehow from the moon, I don't know how the Bhagavatam doesn't mention, it poured from the moon onto, because moon is a little above the Bhumandal. From the moon, the water comes on to the top of Mount Sumeru. It pours. How does it pour? Like this. So this is river Ganges. From the moon, it is pouring onto the top of Mount Sumeru. This is Mount Sumeru, right? This is Jambudweep. It's divided into 9 parts. It's Mount Sumeru. This is the expanded view of the top of the Mount Sumeru. Anybody remembers what are these 8 plus 1, 9 residences?
It is South Pal, Prabhuji.
Residence of Brahmaji and the demigods.
Remember, towards the end of the last class, we spoke about the various Lokapalas having their residences. Indra, Nairiti, Yama, Shiva, and so on and so forth. And Lord Brahma has his abode at the center. So it is said the water of the Ganges from the moon comes and flows first onto Brahmapuri, Brahma's residence. There it is said that it divides into 4 different rivers: the Bhadra, the Chakshu, the Sita, and the Alaknanda. Now we come to this picture. It is said from the top of Mount Sumeru, then it falls down, pours down from the 4 sides: east, west, south, and north. And when it flows down, it is said it flows over the respective varshas across the respective mountains and flows all towards the saltwater sea which is around. Flows down, goes across the mountains, goes into the sea. Flows down, goes across the mountain, goes to the sea. From here falls down, goes across the mountains, goes to the sea. The same on the other side. So these are the various branches. So in that way, the whole Jambudweep is fortunate that it has access to Ganges water. The Alaknanda branch flows southward. And of course, with the assistance of Lord Shiva, who's in Ilavarta Varsha, it flows from there and then it goes across these mountains. It goes from Himalayas. And finally, it comes to the Bharat Varsha, where it eventually flowing through Bharat Khanda joins the saltwater ocean in the Bay of Bengal, the Ganga Sagar place. So that is described in detail. I'm not going to go through all the mountain names. So it is said how from Brahmapuri, in the south, it goes through the peaks of the Kesharachala mountains, then through the peak of the Mount Nishad, and Mount Hemakuta, Mount Himalaya, Bharatvarsha, and saltwater ocean. So that path is mentioned for all the 4 directions. I don't intend to go and describe all of that. And this particular section ends by saying that this river, the Ganges, is actually so glorious and she came down for the benefit of all living entities. Persons who bathe in the rivers of the waters of the Ganges or any of these branches are so fortunate they achieve very easily the results of even performing the greatest of sacrifices like Rajasuya sacrifice and Ashwamedha sacrifices. So like that, that description is given. So we are very fortunate. So the Lord actually is so merciful that he's making his mercy available. See, in the material world, the Lord is not directly accessible in his transcendental form, but through his pure devotees, through the Bhagavad, through the Ganges, through the Tulasi, the Lord allows us to associate with him. Because all these are directly and intimately connected with him. Of course, and the holy name. Naam, Bhagavad, the Bhagavad book and the Bhagavad person, the Ganges, Yamuna is also included, Ganga and Yamuna, Tulasi. These are all very, very special. They are all very intimately connected with the Lord. And the deity form of the Lord. These are all various ways in which the Lord can be accessed. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. So any questions on this so far, what we have covered? If you have a quick question, I can answer. Otherwise, we are behind schedule. Let's see. Okay, wonderful. So let us continue. Anyway, I don't want to hurry. If it takes a little longer, that's fine. So the next section, the subsection of this chapter briefly describes the 9 Varshas of Jambudvipa. Actually, we have already discussed that. So we covered that topic already earlier. So I'm not going to go into more detail. But there is one aspect which is emphasized, which is what I want to mention. So let me just bring up that diagram again once. Not a bad idea to show that other diagram. Okay. So this diagram. So Jambudvipa is divided into 9 Varshas. The Bhagavatam mentions here that out of the 9 Varshas, only Bharata Varsha is known as Karma Bhumi. This also we discussed briefly earlier, so I'm going to just repeat. It is emphasized here. The other 8 Varshas, other than Bharat Varsha, are all places of heavenly enjoyment. Now, first we'll discuss what Karma Bhumi means. Karma Bhumi is the place where living entities are given a chance to take birth. They are governed by very stringent laws of duties and karma, and they are judged on the basis of that activity, judged in the sense that there is papa and punya which is created as they live their lives in karma bhumi. So we are all in karma bhumi. Of course, Bharat Varsha itself is divided into 9 khandas, and we are only in Bharata Khanda, but all these 9 khandas, the laws of karma are very strong. So based on the karma which is performed by the living entities in Bharat Varsha, they may either go higher, they may go lower, or they may remain at the same place. So, Bharat Varsha is like a junction. It is where living entities come, and from there they go to various places. And then after they go, then again they get a chance to come back. Bharat Varsha is the best designed for spiritual advancement. That point also we have discussed in great detail. That is not mentioned here in this chapter, but I'm just reminding you. And Bharat Varsha is especially great place for learning for 2 reasons. One, which we already discussed, is that happiness and distress are well balanced. In other heavenly places, it is too good, and in some places, it is too painful. So either too much enjoyment or too much pain, you cannot cultivate spiritual life. So that's one area, one point. The other interesting point about Bharatvarsha is because all kind of living entities come here. Bharatvarsha is not a homogeneous place of people of similar consciousness, unlike other planetary systems. If you go to any other planetary system or any of these other Varshas, most of the living entities there, because they have come by a specific qualification, they are of a specific type of qualification, all of them. So you'll find people of a certain level of evolution in that particular place. And that is why they are relatively homogeneous. But Bharatvarsha is full of all kinds of people. There are very pious people, there are very sinful people, there are people in the middle, plus there are animals, trees, all kinds of living entities. The whole spectrum is there in Bharatvarsha. So you may wonder, how does that help? The way it helps is that when we are born in Bharatvarsha and we get exposure to this whole spectrum, exposure to this whole spectrum is actually useful for a sadhaka to make better spiritual advancement because he gets exposed to the whole range. I don't want to get into a more detailed discussion on this point, but I hope you get the point that growth happens when one has more exposure, because then one learns how to deal with various categories of people. That's the essential principle. So Bharatvarsha is the ideal place for spiritual advancement, and we are situated here. But other than Bharatvarsha, it is said the other 8 Varshas are all heavenly realms for pious people to enjoy. In fact, these 8 Varshas are known as Bhauma Swarga. It is said there are 3 kinds of Swarga, heavenly places. There is Divya Swarga, it's the heavens where the Devatas live. Then there is Bhauma Swarga, all these other Varshas. And then there is Bila Swarga, the lower planetary systems below Bhumandal, Atal, Vital, Sutal, all the way up to Patal, which are also places of enjoyment. There are materialistic entities staying there who are not interested in spiritual life or interested in worshipping the Lord. But they are places of enjoyment nonetheless, because those living entities have performed certain pious activities earlier. They are allowed to enjoy. 3 types of Swarga: Divya Swarga, Bhauma Swarga, Bila Swarga. Bila means bill, inside the earth, lower. We'll discuss this in more detail later. What are the Bila Swargas and how they are situated, where they are situated in the geography. That's a different chapter. We'll come to that. But just remember, for now, these are the 3 types of Swargas. So this Bhauma Swarga, which is the focus of our conversation today, typically these are heavenly places where, after having enjoyed in heavens, let's say somebody performs a lot of punya and he goes to Indra Loka and he has great time, he spends time with the Apsaras and he goes to the various gardens there, and the enjoyment in the Divya Swarga is thousands and thousands of times better sense enjoyment than on earth. Finally, he exhausts his pious credits on Indra Loka, so he has to come down, but he still has a little pious credit left over. But that pious credit, that recharge is not enough for him to continue to stay in Indra Loka. So he comes down, but then he comes first to one of the Bhauma Swargas, which also has very high enjoyment as compared to Bharatvarsha, but is not as high as Divya Swarga. So he spends some time in one of these places. Guru Varsha, Hiranmaya Varsha, Ilavarta Varsha, Bhadrasha Varsha, Ketumal Varsha. There's a good time. And then finally, Shine Punya Martya Lokam Vishanti. After that also Punya is exhausted. Then he comes to earth. So what is the quality of life on this Bhauma Swarga? it is said that in these 8 varshas, the living entities live like demigods. Their lifespan is typically 10,000 human years. And that is why I mentioned to you first. Please don't fall into the trap of going to these places, because if you come back to Earth after 10,000 years in Bharat Varsha, the bus would have gone. 10,000 years here. If you go to heavenly planets in the actual Divya Swargas, then it will be far more than that also. It is said 10,000 years of healthy, strong, vigorous life. There's no old age in the bodies. It's a youthful body all throughout. The bodies are said to be strong and sturdy like thunderbolts. Each living entity has the strength of 10,000 elephants. Wow. Strength of 10,000 elephants. And they have so much strength and their senses are so strong. You know, on Earth, sometimes we have so much desire to enjoy, but our senses are not strong. Correct? Have you all experienced? We are so eager to go to a restaurant or to a marriage party and enjoy the food. But we eat a little bit, after that we cannot eat anymore. Our tongue is not satisfied, but we cannot eat anymore. If we eat any more than that, then our stomach starts getting trouble. But in the heavenly planets, even on Bhauma Swarga, the senses are very powerful. And so is the sense desire, because there is such an ideal environment for enjoyment. Everyone is beautiful, the environment is beautiful, the men are beautiful, the ladies are beautiful, they have their consorts, girlfriends, wives, whatever, and they have such strong desire to enjoy. It is said that the male and the female residents, they enjoy for long periods of time uniting with each other there, because the senses are so strong. So the enjoyment which was possible only for a few minutes on the earth realm, they said they can have prolonged enjoyment in bodily union on these higher planetary systems. And the good thing from a material perspective is that there is no unwanted pregnancy in these heavenly planets. I'm just telling you what the Bhagavatam is telling us. This is not a topic of my personal interest, but I'm just telling what the Bhagavatam has mentioned. It is said they are allowed to enjoy unlimitedly on the planets, because these planets are meant for enjoyment. And out of the 10,000 years of their life, 9,999 years they can enjoy in this way nicely without any difficulty. It is said in the last year of their life, the female conceives. So that they don't have any botheration of taking care of small children, feeding them, taking them to school. No, whole setup is just meant for enjoyment. And the kind of happiness that they have on that planet is like the kind of happiness which living entities in Bharatvarsha experience in the Treta Yuga. Treta Yuga, the lifespan was 10,000 years also, by the way. So the basic point is material enjoyment without tribulation. No becoming old, body is strong and healthy, senses are strong and healthy, perfect environment, perfect opportunity. So that is why the scriptures say, Are Baba, even if you want to enjoy, of course, we are not saying we should enjoy materially, we want to achieve transcendental happiness. Even if you want to enjoy sensually, Bharatvarsha is not the place to enjoy. The quality of material enjoyment here is actually so low. Better you perform austerities here, perform punya here, so that you can actually enjoy real quality material sense enjoyment. Even if that is your goal. Can you imagine 10,000 years of sturdy body? No job. You have all opportunity. You can fly anywhere you want. You have ample resources. You have a spouse who's also beautiful like you. You can go around everywhere in the parks and gardens and eat and drink and make merry unlimitedly to your heart's content. No botheration. Huh? So of course the terrain there we have already discussed. So I'm not going to spend too much time. There are lakes and there are gardens and there are beautiful birds and fruits and so many things. And not only are there all these wonderful devatas who have a lot of punya, but they also have servants there. There are other lower devatas who are serving them. So, it can't get better than this. And this is just Bhauma Swarga. This is not even Divya Swarga. And then this particular section, and we will have to end there because it's almost 10:10. This is verse 14. It is said, the section ends by saying that this 9 varshas, of course, 8 Divya Swargas, sorry, 8 Bhauma Swargas, and 1 is Bharat Varsha, which is Karma Bhumi. Each of these 9 varshas, Lord Hari has incarnated in different incarnation forms, and he's bestowing his mercy for various residents. See, the Lord is so kind that even though these people are enjoying, the Lord wants to make sure that because they are pious, they don't become totally forgetful of him. So the Lord appears in various incarnations in each of these varshas. So, for example, it is said in Ilavarta Varsha, the Lord is present in his form as Lord Shiva. In Bhadrashva, he's present as Lord Shiva, but the presiding deity is Sankarshan because Lord Shiva is meditating on Sankarshan. In Bhadrashva Varsha, the Lord is present as Hayagriva or is worshipped as Hayagriva. In the Hari Varsha as Narsimha, in Ketubal Varsha as Pradyumna, in Ramyaka Varsha as Matsya, in Hiranyamay Varsha as Kurma, in Kuru Varsha as Varaha, in Kim Purusha Varsha as Ram, and in Bharat Varsha as Narnarayan. So in that way, the Lord is very kind. There's also something more which I want to mention, but I think I will start by mentioning that in our next class because that's something very interesting. Very interesting. And I'll begin with that in the next class, and then we'll continue into the last part of this chapter, which is the prayers to Lord Sankarshan by Lord Shiva in Ilavarta Varsha. So there is a beautiful description of Ilavarta Varsha. Then there are beautiful prayers. So we will start again with with verse 14, and we will continue from verse 14 because there are some points about 14 which I want to mention before we continue to go ahead. Thank you very much. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Sorry, I hope I have not bored you. Any questions, any comments? Yes, Tarun Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Did you find the discussion exciting?
Yes, very much. And I want to go to Transcendental, not this.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay now?
You're not mute, but I think your mic is not connected for some reason.
Just a minute. Is it better now? Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear anyone. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, but I can't hear you. You can hear him. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Tarun, can you speak again? Let me see if I can contact. Oh, maybe my. 1 second. Hold on, I can't hear you.
Prabhuji, can you hear me okay
My
now?
audio.
Anyone else can hear me?
Yes, Tarun
Yes,
Prabhuji,
I
we can hear you.
so. I can hear
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
I can hear now. 1 minute. Let me change it
Sure.
back to another setting. I don't know why it was. Can one of you speak something so I can see if I can hear?
Hare Krishna.
No. Okay, let me go back to the speaker. Maybe I have to hear like that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, can you speak?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah, now I can. For some reason I could not. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, Prabhuji, this question I have based on the karma theory. And so I learned something about narakas. So there are different types of narak available based on the karma that we do. And so my question is, if we are doing good karma, it will be a pious and punyas that we are earning. If we are doing bad karma, certain type of narak will be allocated based on the kind of bad deeds we are doing. And we will be going there and we will be punished, right? So once the punishment is over, we are certainly going back to the earth and we will be reborn. So will those karma for which we have punished will also be coming back to us in this new earth?
No, if you have already completely exhausted the punishment, then it is done.
So means punishment can be partial or it's not?
It can be just like enjoyment also can be partial. So just now we discussed one scenario, right? You have created a lot of punya. You go to Indraloka. You enjoy 90% in Indraloka. Then out of the remaining 10%, maybe another 7-8% you enjoy on Bhauma Swarga. And the 3% is such kind of punya that it's not even worthy of enjoyment in Bhauma Swarga or Divya Swarga. So it's okay, you go back to earth. I'll give you a good family, good job, a good car. These are low class enjoyments. Just take that. You cannot. Your punya is no good. This currency doesn't work in Bhauma Swarga and Divya Swarga. So that is good for karma. You understand what I'm saying?
Understood.
So there is a similar equivalence you can draw in sinful activity. So there are certain kinds of sins that the kind of punishment requires hell, because it's very intense karma. Human body cannot deal with that karma. You understand? Human body is not just like human body is not capable of certain enjoyments. Human body is not capable of certain suffering. It will die. So once you die, how will you suffer? Because the body is gone. So that is why hellish planets are created, so that living entities are given bodies where they can endure extreme suffering. That's the idea of hell. So certain sufferings, of course, there is no clear list of what are the scenarios and how they are dealt with. That's Yamaraj's department, right? So I do not know that. But principally, from a principal perspective, big reactions are dealt with in hellish planets, and leftovers, may come here on earth.
Okay, got it.
Something like that. But once you have enjoyed something, whatever portion you have enjoyed or suffered, the karmic reaction is done for that part. You will not enjoy or suffer that again. But having said that, it is very important to remember about karma, good or bad. Karma doesn't just produce reaction.
Okay.
Karma doesn't just produce good or bad reaction. Karma also produces samskar. You do a good karma, it not only gives you punya, it creates a samskar in your subtle body. If you do a bad karma, not only it gives you bad reaction, it creates a bad samskar. What does a samskar mean? That samskar will create and build your nature and character, which will propel you to do similar kind of activities in the future. You understand?
Got it.
Correct? Yeah. So those who are used to doing good are more likely to do good because that is the samskar they have created. Those who are doing bad, even though they are suffering, for example, a person goes to jail, suffers and completes his punishment and comes out, but comes back and does the same thing again. Why? Because the samskar is not gone. The reaction is done, but the samskar is not gone.
Got it.
The samskar goes only through proper shastric atonement or through spiritual advancement. Samskar doesn't just go away like that. Genuine atonement is necessary or spiritual purification is necessary. And devotional service will achieve this, both. It will achieve not just burning the karma, it will also dissolve the samskaras and the vrittis which the samskaras produce in our consciousness, which propel us towards material activity, good or bad. That is why the samskara we want to create is the samskara to dedicate everything to the Supreme Lord. Okay?
Got it, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank
Hari
you very
Hari.
much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I just genuinely hope this is not
Prabhuji, one
boring.
more point I have actually. This
Yeah,
is on
sir.
Ekadashi Vrat. So I heard it is important to do the Udyapan of Ekadashi Vrat. So is this required, Prabhuji?
It is important to do.
Udyapan after the Vrat, means after 10, 20, like that. So we are starting without any kind of counting and targets, Prabhuji. So is it required to do Udyapan of Ekadashi Vrat after the certain count?
Actually, I'm not understanding your question.
So Udyapan means like you're doing a big puja after the 21 count or any specific count that you thought is done of Ekadashi Vrat, and then you are stopping those Vrat.
No, we don't follow that system. No, in
Okay.
us, I do not know. See, some people do vratas. See, for us, Ekadashi is a part of our life. We are not doing it as a one-off vrata to achieve a particular objective. Those who are with a material mindset, with a karmi mindset, they sometimes do vratas, including Ekadashi vrata, to achieve a specific objective, to create a particular punya, to achieve a particular goal. If the Shastras mention, if you do so many Ekadashis like this, you will get this fun. And all those things are true if they are mentioned in the scriptures. But for us, that is not our motivation. For us, Madhava Tithi Bhakati Janani. That Ekadashi is the mother of devotion for us. So our motivation is very different. So for us, Ekadashi, even though it's a vrat, our whole motivation is to please the Lord. We are not counting Ekadashis.
Got your point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Of course, somebody wants to count and do, that's better than not doing. But yeah, we want to make Ekadashi as a part of our life. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anything else? Anyone? Okay. Okay, wonderful. So we'll continue, I think. Yeah, I hope to complete the chapter, but perhaps because we spent almost 20 minutes in my foreword today, I was not able to complete the chapter. But never mind. That was an important point with respect to Krishna, Jagannath, Mahaprabhu. So we will wind up the chapter and see if we can move ahead even beyond that, because it's a related topic only. We can complete 17 and then start with 18 in our next class. So thank you, and we will continue our Chaitanya Charitamrita series. Yeah, from on the coming Tuesday. So I will see you on Tuesday. Okay. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Jai Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. For all those who have written
Jai.
comments,
Hare
thank you very much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna
Hare
and
Krishna.
thank
Thank
you,
you,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hari
Hare
Prabhuji.
For your
Bol.
wonderful
Hare
class.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you
Hare
so
Hare.
much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rita ji, Sini ji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Archana ji,
Hare Krishna,
Meena
Prabhuji.
Mata
Hare
ji.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Sapna ji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your wonderful class, Prabhuji.
Yes, and your son also, I can see smiling. Hare Krishna. Nice to see him also. Yes, so thank you, Bhaskar. Also, thank you, Tarun, everyone.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. And I will
Thank you,
on
Prabhu. Hare
Tuesday.
Krishna.